In a major policy decision, US President Donald Trump has decided to send advanced Patriot missile systems to Ukraine to help it defend itself against intensifying Russian missile attacks. The decision marks a significant shift for Trump. Trump had previously expressed reluctance in continuing with large-scale military aid to Kyiv. So then the basic question is, what prompted this change of heart and this change of strategy? Sources close to the Trump administration say that they're mounting pressure on NATO, rising Russian aggression both in mainstream cities like Kyiv as well as in western Ukraine, and assurances that European allies will bear the financial burden have helped sway Trump's stand.
We will send them Patriots, which they desperately need, because Putin is really surprised a lot of people. He talks nice and then he bombs everybody in the evening. So there's a little bit of a problem there, and I don't like it.
The Patriot, which is a shot for phased array tracking radar to intercept on target, it's one of the most sophisticated air and missile defense systems in the world. It was first introduced in the early 1980s. The Patriots gained global recognition during the Gulf War in 1991 when they were deployed to intercept Iraqi Scud missiles. Since then, the Patriot missile systems have evolved not just in target but also in targeting ballistic missiles and cruise missiles as well as advanced aircraft. The missile system's radar can detect incoming threats from up to over 100 kilometers away, and that gives the defenders time to launch these interceptors. For Ukraine, which is grappling with waves and waves of Russian missile and drone strikes on its cities, the Patriots could be a game changer, particularly when it comes to protecting big cities like Kyiv as well as other critical urban infrastructure. Trump's agreement also hinges on NATO sharing the cost of sending these Patriots to Ukraine. He has claimed that Europe must pay its fair share, and he's also reportedly negotiated a deal where Poland and Germany will fund the bulk of the deployment of the Patriots and their maintenance. This allows Trump to maintain his America First fiscal narrative while at the same time still responding to the geopolitical urgency in Eastern Europe and the urgency with which Ukraine needs these missile batteries to defend itself. But all of this was boiling over for a number of weeks now. Trump unleashed weeks of frustration with President Vladimir Putin of Russia over what he described as meaningless gestures towards peace. This came just days after Trump said that the United States would resume sending ammunition, but at that time he said it was defensive ammunition to Ukraine to try and help it fend off Russia's invasion. Trump's remarks were the harshest that he's made towards Putin since he was first elected as president in 2016. This also comes as an abrupt change in public posture towards Russia after months of failing to forge peace. This was a conflict that Trump, when he was on the campaign trail, had boasted he could end in a single day. Now he's going to be close to 6 months in office, and the war is simply increasing in scope and ambit, not moving towards a ceasefire.
I'm not happy with Putin. I can tell you that much right now, because he's killing a lot of people. And a lot of them are his soldiers and their soldiers, mostly. And it's now up to 7,000 a week, and I'm not happy with Putin. We get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
The US president's disillusionment with his Russian counterpart, along with more positive recent interactions that he's had with President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, have appeared to be driving his decision to resume sending some air defense interceptors as well as precision-guided missiles to Ukraine. It's unclear, though, how quickly the initial tranche of these weapons, which was held up in Poland, will be arriving in Ukraine. But the decision to release these ammunition were cheered in Ukraine, which has suffered major Russian air attacks over the last few weeks. The decision came shortly after a phone call between Trump and Putin a few days ago. Trump has been growing increasingly frustrated with Putin in recent weeks. Advisors have been saying that he believes that Putin is stringing him along. At the end of May, Trump had indicated to reporters he might impose new sanctions on Russia, only to turn away from that. Meanwhile, there are now reports of a new bill being shepherded by Republican lawmaker Lindsey Graham, in which countries that trade with Russia and import Russian oil will be penalized. The Trump administration is hoping that further economic sanctions on Russia will tighten the grip and perhaps get Putin to back off. Germany, France, Britain, and Italy have all publicly told Trump that there have to be new American sanctions. And that's the only way it can force President Putin of Russia to enter into serious negotiations about ending the war. Without these sanctions, Putin has been escalating, he's been prolonging Russia's attacks in an attempt to break Ukraine's defenses. Trump has also said he's very strongly considering supporting this bipartisan Senate bill, which is being moved by Lindsey Graham as well as other Republican senators. According to this bill, there would be severe sanctions, not just on Russia, but also countries like India and China, which purchase Russian oil. They're hoping that collective global pressure of countries of influence will actually get Russia and Putin to back off. Trump has long praised Putin as a tough-as-nails leader. He's been scornful of Zelensky. In fact, earlier this year, he publicly scolded the Ukrainian president in a remarkable encounter that happened inside the White House. In fact, as Trump's disillusionment with Russia's leader is building, Pentagon officials were also growing increasingly concerned about the potential depletion of America's stockpile of weapons. Remember, America had supplied Israel with weapons. It has also used weapons in its attacks against Iran. And there were concerns among top U.S. generals that some American bases in the Middle East could be targeted, particularly if America joined in Israel's war against Iran. In fact, over the past couple of years, the Pentagon has sent more than $60 billion of weapons and ammunition, as well as military equipment to Ukraine. But what Ukraine needs the most are these Patriot interceptor missiles. The interceptors are particularly prized because they are one of the few weapons that Ukraine can use to knock down Russia's most advanced missiles. They've been critical in Ukraine's struggling effort to hold off increasingly intense attacks from Russia. And now Trump has said he is going to give Ukraine exactly that, the Patriot interceptors. He's also promising to make NATO pay for these weapons. And if that actually came to pass, as is expected this week, then Trump would have turned a corner in his Russia policy and also in his purported bromance with Vladimir Putin.